This striker fired trigger is probably different from anything you've ever touched before, and I think in a good way. Coming up next on GB Guns. So the pistol in question here is a Mk23 Grand Power Q100, and no, I'm not doing this as a fanboy of Grand Powers. I'm doing this because when I shot this thing recently, I identified that the trigger felt different and I couldn't figure out what it was while I was shooting. It wasn't until later on when I was cleaning the thing up to take photos for the article that I realized it's built differently, and I'll show you what I mean. Most striker fired triggers, and this is the new Canik TTI Combat, I think most people can agree that Canik has great striker fired triggers. You've got the safety dingus in the middle that is usually pretty light. You take that up, the trigger travels, and then it breaks. Here's another example. This is the SAR 9C Gen 3, and for Gen 3 they changed a lot. I loved this thing on the range. Great trigger, but same thing. Really light dingus. I mean, just laying my finger on there, not even adding pressure, defeats the safety, and then you pull through the trigger. Now on to what's different about the Grand Power. And why is it different? Well, not only is Grand Power kind of a mad scientist of brilliant engineers doing things differently, like the rotating barrel and whatnot, but the early Grand Power striker fired guns, I've got one, done reviews on it, the trigger had almost no feel to it. It just kind of went through and broke, and they immediately remedied that and needed to change it. And I think they did it without copying other people, because let me show you what happens here. Here, the trigger itself is very light. The spring on the safety is the heavy one. And so you notice the trigger's almost like I'm putting pressure against the trigger itself as I'm defeating the safety. But when the safety's defeated, you're at the wall. That's all there is to it. And as I was shooting this at the range, and I wish I could, you guys have to feel it to fully understand it. Of course, it's hard to tell how much pressure my finger is applying. But I'm telling you, if I just lay my finger on here, nothing happens. I have to defeat really the normal amount of spring pressure that you would put on a trigger to make it break is what it takes for the safety to be defeated. And then we're at the wall. And I was just blown away at the range trying to figure out what was making this shoot so much nicer. Going back to a conventional trigger, in fact, let's use the Canik, everyone's favorite. Just setting my finger on there, not applying any pressure, defeats the safety, and then I have to pull through. So what I'm getting at is this Grand Power system. If you've got your finger resting on the trigger and you are shooting, actively in shooting, you don't feel any difference. It just feels like a super light and short trigger. However, the safety itself is still there and still plenty strong, because you have to apply quite a bit of pressure to defeat that safety. So it's in some ways a safer gun and yet lighter, quicker trigger on the range. It's a fascinating concept. I'm putting it here on the second channel because I know you guys are the more cerebral of the audience. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this. I wish there was a way I could convey this other than just describing, but it's really something you gotta feel. I think it's pretty cool. Thanks for watching.